If you were an unknown, immortal creature not from this world, what would you do? You have the power to absorb and become anything you touch, and will have to fight soldiers and unknown creatures sent to destroy the planet, horrifying animal gods, and even question your own maker. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the mythological world into your eternity. This creature from another world is about to watch everyone he loves die. This white orb takes the form of everything it comes into contact with. Falling from the sky, it turns into this rock, and a little later, an injured wolf comes across it and dies. But then something happens. It takes the form of the wolf. The orb becomes conscious and replicates the behaviors and memories of the wolf it just met, eventually experiencing its first pain, and somehow manages to heal itself, and then it learns how to move more efficiently, using the memories from the original host. It finds its way back to its owner, this boy, all alone in an abandoned town in the middle of the winter. The boy is now relieved and thinks this wolf is his missing pet, and makes them both dinner, and then it begins to analyze its new surroundings and likes the new environment.
I got a hot date in 1 week with the girl of my dreams, and I'm freaking out about my looks because I'm turning into Saitama. But there's one thing that'll give me the confidence to meet my one true love, and that's with the help of Keeps. Keeps is an online subscription that makes it easier and cheaper for men to treat their male pattern baldness right from home, and with exactly 168 hours until I meet my future wife, maybe, me and others out there desperate for expert hair loss care will be able to rely on Keeps licensed medical providers without trips to the doctor or pharmacy, and with personalized affordable treatment plans right to your door at half the price of traditional pharmacy prices. This means I'll be able to spend that saved money on my dinner with bae. I'm thinking the 2-to-1 special on oysters, but there is one thing out there I like more than 2-for-1 deals, and that's a 2-for-1 gel that combines both treatments for the hassle-free weeb out there, as well as both FDA-approved hair loss treatment options, which you can choose from, and you can message your medical provider or Keeps care team 24/7 about all this included in their subscription plans, so we can start our hassle-free journey to a more confident life with affordable cutting-edge science-backed solutions, helping you and me prevent or stimulate more hair growth all day long, even on my date, so we can look our best at rabbit time at a fraction of the price. Actually, with this much money saved for the date and so much newfound confidence, I could just screw the date and go on a date with myself. Hair loss stops at Keeps. For a special offer to get started, go to keeps.com/howtobeatanime or click the link in the description. That's keeps.com/howtobeatanime. Thanks to Keep for sponsoring the video. Now back to the show.
The boy tells the wolf that they're about to go on an epic adventure because living conditions here are too harsh, and because of this, his entire family left to scout for a new home called Paradise, but haven't returned in months. Finally ready, he takes the wolf and goes to look for his family and look for paradise. Following these directions left on rocks by his family, he powers through the devastating land. But eventually the kid accidentally falls down into this ice hole and realizes that his leg is now bleeding. He tells the wolf that it's just a scratch and quickly bandages it up. Carrying on, he eventually spots another rock, but this one is different. The arrow sign has been crossed out, telling him that this route is not safe anymore. He realizes that he's standing in the middle of a destroyed campsite and doesn't even know where his family went, if they're even still alive. Starting to break down, he apologizes to the wolf and decides to go back home instead. Alright, while it might look like we're screwed, there was a simple way to come out of this alive using old people and my tongue. Let me explain. The kid was left behind to watch over his elders while his family went off. This makes sense because, well, old people are more fragile than my fancy china set. However, him looking happy and not scarred for the rest of his life tells me he didn't do the one thing that could have saved him from the beginning. On average, protein makes up 16% of someone's total body weight, and someone weighing this much, around 70 kilograms or 154 pounds, would have about 24.7 pounds of protein in their body. And while a kid like this doing physical activity in a harsh environment would need something like 120 grams of protein daily just to survive. If I was him, I would have been so soft and realized that maybe the one grandma could have fed me for 93 days. Just gotta boil her up a bit. Besides, there was like 5 of these old ladies. The moment mommy and daddy left, I would have simply tucked all the grandmas and grandpas into bed, give their foreheads a quick little kiss, and then maybe bash their brains in. With love, but I have to survive and we have to be practical here. Then all you have to do is dump their bodies outside of the frozen cold to slow down decomposing and just let them freeze into an ice cube. And then whenever I got a little hungry, you just gotta bring one in, thaw them out, and then boil them. Now granted, seeing the faces of ones that I'm supposed to love and call family might freak me out if I stared their faces, so maybe just chop off the head and then, call it good. You'll feel less guilty, right? The point is, he should have looked at his old loved ones less like individuals with hearts and souls and memories and all that, and more like meals on wheels. I mean, he even could have tried turning his cute dog into jerky if he wanted to, because look, he's in a horrible environment, and the only way to survive in a harsh world like this is to be ruthless. The kid heads back, but it's too late. Days later, he barely makes it back, and his leg is now badly infected. Now, out of food, the kid begins to get confused about his situation and starts mumbling that his family will come back soon, all the while the wolf curiously watches him. Later that night, now on his deathbed and delirious, he suddenly gets up and thinks his family's about to return, and not wanting to appear lazy, he moves from the bed to the chair to wait for them, telling the wolf to remember him. Then he dies all alone, cold, scared, and afraid. Eventually, his body collapses onto the floor. The wolf tries to wake him up, but that's when it suddenly absorbs the boy's body and transforms into him and becomes human, sort of. With a survival instinct more for stimulation, the wolf, now as a human boy, heads out into the cold land. Not understanding how humans' bodies work, his body soon starves and he poops his pants and dies over and over again on his journey. However, each time he comes back to life completely healed, full of energy, and finally reaches this lush forest, and after weeks of walking, a bear suddenly shows up and kills the boy once again. What the frick? That's just not fair. Anyway, nearby in this village called Ninana, this little kid named March is hanging out with her friend named Sissy, basically sisters. March is tired of being a kid and dreams of becoming a grown-up one day, but that's when trouble suddenly arrives at their village. These outsiders announce that they are a town called Yanome and tell everyone that this village has been selected to help out this year's god ritual, and they must select an untarnished girl for the festival. Combining through all of Ninana's people, they finally settle on March, and her parents tell her that she's been chosen for a great honor, holding in their devastating tears. This lady named Hayase tells March what everyone else already knows, that she's about to be sacrificed, and Hayase has been tasked to watch her until she dies. Horrified, she refuses as she plans to become an adult, and throws a tantrum before her parents scold her and put her in her place. The next morning, March, now defeated, says goodbye to everyone, including Sissy, who secretly has plans to save March. Heading deep into the forest with Hayase and her men, she makes a break for it midway and falls off this cliff and lands in this lake. However, she spots this eyeball and its owner, this kid, just as he wakes up from death like a terrifying zombie, freaking March out and even the two guards. Hayase sends to get her back. The boy starts walking away like nothing happened, but March follows him back up the mountain. Hayase has just caught someone trying to save March, her best friend, Sissy. Her men also arrive back and alert Hayase what they just saw, but she doesn't believe it. Back down the cliff, March follows this boy aimlessly, but realizes he doesn't talk. Getting hungry, she stops to eat some fruit, but the boy charges at her like an animal, tries to steal it. Pissing her off, she tries to teach him some manners and how to eat food. In the process, she soon starts taking a liking to the boy and treats him like her child, naming him Fushi. But Hayase eventually discovers her, not realizing who Fushi is. She ignores him and takes her back. Meanwhile, at Hayase's camp, Sissy gets to work on trying to escape, but all of a sudden the floor starts trembling beneath their feet, and they hear a sinister growl approaching them with anger. This giant bear, and the men realize they've come across the Oniguma god in the flesh. They start freaking out. One of them instantly gets eaten and the others run away. Sissy barely escapes in time and makes a break for it over this cliff. Now safe, she starts tracking March and unknowingly comes across her friend Fushi. The boy ignores her and keeps on walking as Sissy spots Hayase's sacrificial site in the distance. Hayase, now with half her men missing or dead, rushes to make it to the site and tells everyone they're nearly at the final destination. She gives March some food and asks her about the boy she was with, but March lies and says he was just some random person. Some of Hayase's men claims she's lying and try to tell their boss that she was with a monster. Confusing Hayase, she doesn't take them seriously. Reaching the location, March passes out from the spiked food as Hayase's men prepare her for the sacrifice, removing last year's bones from the table. They tie her up and hear incoming rumbles from the forest. The Oniguma god finally appears and Hayase sees the legend for the first time. They all rush to leave the site before the ceremony begins, not noticing Sissy head in before the gate closes, trying to untie March. Okay, I can't be the only one to think, why the frick did March stop when she met her main character? Like, what the frick? What are you doing? Just keep going. You're running. What are you doing now? Why are you stopping? Oh, she's so stupid. Anyways, look, I would have escaped this whole situation by utilizing one god dinner plate and an ounce of common sense. Let me explain. Look, Sissy could have saved March if she just stopped being a silly goose for like 1 second. If I was her, knowing the stakes already from what we just saw, maybe show up with a sharper weapon and don't count on a crappy village knife to handle crap, and would have also utilized Hayase and her men because they would have made perfect meat shields. Look, the moment we entered the sacrificial area, I would have knocked out just one of Hayase's men and taken their weapon in the process. A good rock or maybe a good solid branch to the back of the head does wonders to someone's constitution. Because look, if a god is coming at us, it's logical to assume that Hayase, being a regular human, would be just as scared as everyone else of this incoming monster. And sure as shit, wouldn't waste time trying to rescue or help one of her minions, and would have no problem leaving this shield of meat here for what comes next. Rushing to save March using our sharper weapon, or she could have even just kept her knife and just sharpened it way more. We're saving March with our way sharper weapon, which would have allowed us to save her even faster and left this shield of meat to cover for us while we escape. Look, even if we couldn't save March in time, we still could have used our environment to survive by relying on the stone table to protect ourselves from the bear's attack on the off chance we can't save March. It's not a coincidence that this, of all things, was used as a dinner plate to serve up a freaking god, which means it likely would have been strong enough to protect us from any initial blows if the god tried to throw at us, if we ducked down behind it before rushing out to safety, because not only would our dear friend March have kept it busy, but also this soldier, and we could have headed home knowing that we tried, and which is really all that matters, so namaste, and then move on with our lives. The bear slaps Sissy far back, and it prepares to eat March, but that's when Fushi rushes in to stop it, getting his head crushed by the monster. Haise and her men watch from the distance in shock, witnessing two freaks of nature go at it, and she gets a horrifying idea. Fushi gets up like a zombie again, and transforms into his wolf form, and he switches tactics and attacks the bear, while he starts absorbing its genetic code, gaining more strength from it. Fushi bites down even harder on the bear, and it tries to rip him apart, but he keeps healing and growing stronger and stronger, finally defeating it and winning the battle. After, Haise does a 180 and frees March, telling them they will report she died according to the ritual, but everyone will secretly go hide her in the village, where she will be safe, not telling them what terrifying plans she has for them and Fushi. Fushi starts talking to her and thanks her for the fruits. This old lady reveals that she is a fake shaman that the Yaname people have been using to steal back Ninana's rich lands, which is why they got involved with the sacrificing gig. This news shocks Sissy, and she is determined to end this custom and prevent the death of more innocent people. But the shaman says her village elders are old-fashioned and will never stop this tradition. On the way, March decides that she will act as Fushi's mother from now on, all the while as Fushi's memories of his first caretaker come back to him. Reaching the Yaname village, Haise shows them around and even buys them dinner, but secretly puts sleeping medicine in it, causing them to pass out and wake up trapped in a dungeon. She reveals that since Fushi is clearly not from this world, his unlimited power is essential for Yaname's future. While March and Sissy are forced to helplessly watch, a little later Sissy comes up with a plan to escape and tells March to hand her some rope and some of Fushi's wolf fur, but then wakes up and coincidentally starts digging through the cell while March follows him out, seeing the Oniguma bear god from earlier, badly injured. And just then Haise comes in and is annoyed that none of their doctors will treat the scary bear. Feeling bad for the bear, March comes out from hiding and says she can make the bear better. That night, Sissy finalizes her escape plan, gets ready to bring back the bear's head to the village as proof, and hopes this will convince her elders to stop their old traditions. She thinks she's badass, but gets a small reality check, falling out of her window and landing on the ground. This guard spots her and tries to get cheeky, and she appropriately kicks his ass and steals his uniform and weapons. Way to go. Sneaking back in undercover, she helps all three escape, directing them to sneak out through the sewer while she joins them later. But March realizes that she's about to kill the bear that she's come to love, and warns Sissy that he isn't as terrifying as they think he is. Using her big baby eyes, she convinces Sissy not to kill the bear and find another way to convince their village elders. Everyone sneaks out through this carriage, but discover that Haise and her men are hot on their tail. She asks them to leave Fushi behind and they will be spared, but March and Sissy both refuse. Okay, we're being chased by a group of riders on this flat road in the middle of the forest. Great. Riding a horse in natural environments like all around us would require a lot more skill from a rider compared to a road like this. And since we're trying to gain distance, I would have relied on a single distraction, like this old lady here. Knock her out and throw her wrinkly butt off the carriage right at the group of enemy riders, which ideally would have thrown them off track. Being a limited road means that the riders would either trip or crash over her corpse, or would have tried to go around her. And then from here, it would be just two humans and one animal. I would put March and me on a single horse and direct Fushi to follow us on foot, since he's a freak of nature and he's clearly capable, and then cut off the harness right off the horse, pulling the carriage, and this would send me and March flying off ahead while we send one more and bigger and more lethal distraction, this time around, towards our enemies, which would ideally would have stopped or way slowed down or ideally killed whoever's left of our enemies. Engaging in an epic chase, Haise tries to throw a spear at Sissy, but that's when March acts bravely as a meat shield, saving Sissy but gets badly injured. Seeing this, Fushi loses his shit and chases at Haise, pawing the shit out of her. And then he transforms into the Oniguma bear and wreaks havoc on this town. Meanwhile, Sissy tries to save March, but her first aid skills suck, and she ends up basically killing March faster. Heartbroken, she goes to Fushi and tells him he doesn't have to fight for March anymore, prompting him to transform back into his boy form. Spotting Haise being up on the floor, Sissy gets ready to kill her, but March's spirit still holds on to this earth and tries to stop her from committing murder. Unable to reach her, she calls out to Fushi, making him stop her from killing Haise last minute. Fushi scoops Sissy out of there and takes her away to safety, along with March's cold, dead corpse, leaving the old lady behind in the chaos. They eventually eventually deliver March's cold, meat-chilled corpse to her family in Ninana, but they get alerted that the battle isn't over and that more are headed this way. Pissed off and ready for war, Sissy tells Fushi to run far, far away, where he'll be safe. Obeying her orders, he heads off deep into the forest, not realizing that his humanity has now increased thanks to meeting March. Continuing his journey in search of more stimulation, he takes on March's form, but runs into a familiar scent, tracing back to the old lady, who's now lost and alone with their wagon. After smelling March's blood from where she died, transforms back into the boy, scaring the old lady for a hot sec as he heads back off. But this time, the old lady follows him. The two travel for days. Eventually, the old lady starts to get hungry and now starts eyeing up Fushi's delicious chicken legs. She tries to bite him, forcing Fushi to escape up this tree and snack on some fruit. Karma. Anyways, remembering what March did to him, he throws the old lady some fruits and the old bat gets back some of her much-needed energy. Coming across this map, she tries to copy it herself, but discovers Fushi's interest in language and writing and decides to formally teach him how to speak and write. Needing him to stay alive, she offers to teach him how to be human in exchange for accompanying her to her lover's house. So they partner up. On the way, Fushi eventually learns to speak a little more, and she uses this opportunity to find out as much about Fushi as possible, as he remembers more about his past. But a lot of his answers don't make sense. However, that night, while sleeping, something bursts from the ground and viciously attacks Fushi. He turns into his wolf form in self-defense, but realizes this enemy is trying to copy his form. Discovering this, time suddenly stops, and Fushi's creator appears, telling him this enemy has just stolen something within him and shows him how to defeat it. Then the creator unfreezes time again and lets Fushi whips out some really cool sick moves and runs up this tree. Fushi spots its weakness, its inner core, and jumps straight into its center to rip it out, just barely defeating this unknown enemy. He also absorbs back what the enemy stole from him and goes back to his old self. The creator reveals to Fushi that he created him, and he is actually part of a global mission to protect this world from enemies like the one they just fought. Fushi is super confused as I am about this plot twist, but the creator cuts it short and says they will meet again soon and disappears into thin air. The next day, Fushi and the old lady finally reach her lover's house. She tells him that he is an off-brand smart guy that also runs a distillery business that he might know something about from where Fushi came from. This off-brand smart guy comes out, and we'll just call him Old Man, and his assistant named Gugu, who wears this mask thanks to an horrifying accident that he was in that the old man saved him from. Moving on. She shows him Fushi's abilities, and these two low-key want to make some money off of this freak, but Gugu tells them to stop being dicks and forces them to treat him like family. Excited to have a friend, Gugu shows Fushi around, just as this girl from the nearby village and Gugu's crush shows up, named Rin. She has injured herself and asks for some medicine, but spots pretty boy Fushi and instantly starts crushing on him hard, pissing off Gugu. She also reveals to them that she's having family problems and wants to hide out with them for a while, shocking Gugu, and he gets a little too excited. Old Man tells Fushi to keep his powers on the DL while she's here. And over the next few days, Gugu finds out what kind of abilities Fushi really has, realizing that he can copy objects based on the pain and stimulation he receives from them. But Gugu discovers that during his accident, after the old man performed life-saving surgery on him, he also put a barrel of booze inside of his stomach, just because. This pisses him off and causes him to run away in anger. Since he is the only one who cooks, old lady asks Fushi to take over, but he sucks. The whole house ends up missing Gugu fast. Meanwhile, outside, Gugu gets sad that no one has come for him and decides to get the barrel of booze out of his stomach, but first needs cash for the surgery. Heading into town to find a job, the villagers make fun of his mask, but he meets his old master, who kindly offers him to stay with his family as well as a job. However, his kids keep asking about his mask, and he finally takes it off, showing them his hideous face. The entire family freaks out and kick Gugu out. His master apologizes for them, and he tells Gugu he can still keep his job here. He goes to find another place to stay, but some bullies come by and knock his mask off. Being exposed and out in the open, he finally realizes that he doesn't need his mask to be human and throws it away. Coming back to work the next day as a new man, but unfortunately his master's kids hate him even more now and threaten him to run away. Now with nothing to hide his face, no one in the town offers him a new job. Word gets around town about Gugu's hideous face, and this causes a group to kidnap him in order to sell his ugliness for money. But that's when Fushi tracks him down and saves him from these three goons and turns into his bear form, which really makes them all shit their pants. He tells Gugu in his broken words that he can't grow up without him. Seeing Fushi as a proud monster inspires Gugu to feel a little better about his ugly mug. And then he tells Fushi that he's still angry at the old man for turning him into a portable bar, and he falls to the floor in exhaustion. Fushi realizes Gugu hasn't eaten much since he left, and creates a ton of food that he previously copied on his journey in order to feed him. Mid-feeding sesh, they hear a noise outside and discover Rin's dog has found them, and it's not long before Rin shows up up too. She tries to tell stubborn Gugu that the old man says he's sorry for what he did and will take out his tummy bar for free. Gugu still isn't convinced, so Rien tells him everyone misses him deeply, not telling him they actually miss his cooking and are too lazy to do it themselves. Gugu says he lost his mask and doesn't let Rien see his face. Fushi rushes out to go find his mask, while Rien tries to make him feel better and shows him a scar that she's embarrassed about too, but turns out it's just this tiny thing that Gugu thinks is nothing. Pissing her off, she tries to see his face for real now. They have a mini heart-to-heart and an argument. It's a big thing. And Rien offers his mask that she is coincidentally carrying instead, saying she doesn't care if he's a monster or human because he's unique in his own way. Making up, they go look for Fushi. Meanwhile, Fushi finds the mask, but his creator shows up again, and he can tell Fushi is having fun and warns him that he should be on more alert since the enemy is always looking for opportunities to kill him. Back with Gugu and Rien, a thug surprises them and tries to kidnap Rien. Gugu rushes to her aid and helps her escape and makes her really happy. She suspects that her rich father has hired men to come and find her, and thinks they should head back to the old man's house as soon as possible. And this is also why she was carrying a mask earlier to disguise herself. Fushi then meets back up with them, and this time Gugu agrees to go back home. However, on the way back, they run into another person working for Rien's father. Gugu runs off with Rien and tells Fushi to handle it, but just then something grabs him and makes this lady scream for her life. Her echo is heard nearby, forcing Gugu to drop off Rien and circle back to check on Fushi. But instead he spots his best friend, covered in blood, and spots strange things leaving his body. Just as the tree monster shows back up, Gugu doesn't know what the hell this thing is, and he has no idea what he's up against. The monster nearly kills Gugu, but Fushi wakes up just in time to save him, telling him to run. And just then Gugu remembers what the old lady told him about what they saw before they got here, and realizes they're in deep shit. He involuntarily coughs up some booze and realizes he's got a crazy plan. Meanwhile, the monster injures Fushi some more, taking more parts of his soul. Gugu runs back and tries to create a homemade flamethrower with his torch, but it doesn't work and gets swatted back. Fushi in his injured state gets pissed off and tells him to run or he'll get mad. Gugu rushes back but isn't done fighting. He heads straight back to the old man's house, drunk off of his face, and asks him to pump more booze into him and confesses his love to Rien, doesn't elaborate, and then leaves like a total Chad. Oh, and in between, old man tells him that he may have a rupture in his stomach that he needs to fix soon, or else, just side story. Running back to the battlefield, he doesn't see anyone now, and suddenly the tree monster shows back up in bear form to kill him. But this time Gugu is ready and properly sends this human flamethrower right at it, sending it back and gets the attention of everyone back at the house. Okay, so what do we got? We really don't have much to use against this overpowered monster except our flamethrower, which is interesting, so we're gonna have to beat him in the sneakiest way possible. It makes no sense why Gugu didn't bring anyone with him to defeat the monster. Probably because he's immature and he's dumb and he's not an adult like us. And he would never use anyone as a meat shield, bless his heart. Okay, so he only has this homemade flamethrower, which seems like a really cool, easy win, but we gotta remember, we're just a bag of tasty skin and bones, which means how we approach this monster right now is really important, because one hit could kill us easily. If I was Gugu, for starters, I would carry many small bottles of liquors with us. Using these, we could have used non-direct flamethrower attacks, but even without that, I would first direct our first current fire attacks by exploiting flammable areas of this enemy, such as the wooded areas where it's most densely packed, or any potential weak points, like the joints or connections between limbs, in order to cause a temporary distraction for what happens next. Right now, we're fighting in an empty area surrounded by trees. In order to maximize our single attack, I would use the environment to our advantage, and quick collect any dry leaves we see. I would then utilize the full power of our flamethrower, burning not only the enemy but everything around him, ideally even causing a forest fire, and increasing the likelihood that we kill him once and for all. Gugu finally manages to take down the tree monster, but still can't find Fushi. Something then comes out of the monster's body and floats back to where Fushi was last seen and awakens Fushi once again, while Fushi's creator watches them in plain sight. He happily tells Fushi that he stopped the enemy and they are happy to be reunited, and now with the worst over, they head back home, but they don't reveal the horrors they just went through. Instead, Gugu cooks everyone a huge feast to celebrate, even impressing Rien's parents with his cooking skills. The next day, Fushi is contacted by his creator again, who tells him that staying in one place too long will not make him stronger, and he should leave this home at once, revealing that the enemy they fought last night is known as a knocker, and their kind will soon try to take over the world unless Fushi keeps on getting stronger. But Fushi tells him that he wants to stay here with Gugu and refuses. Gugu comes out unable to see who Fushi is talking to, and Fushi goes back inside to join him. A little later, Rien tells Gugu that she's decided to stop being an annoying child and go home, but everyone agrees to remain close friends, and Fushi continues to live with Gugu and the gang, and 4 years then pass by without any incidents, and now Gugu has gone from a skinny butterface to a buff Chad butterface. Cool. Fushi also discovers some hair growing on his chin and realizes that he too is growing up.
But what do you think about the video? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below, and as always, don't forget to check out our How to Beat playlist.